Welcome to the Author Showcase series presented by the South Florida Writers Association, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide literary arts and support writers. Today's guest is Carla Albano. Carla is a 30-year resident of South Florida who has been a lifelong competitive swimmer in both the ocean and in the pool. In 2017, she began writing. Her first book, Soul of a Swimmer, was published in 2021. The book recently completed its first run as a stage play with wider distribution planned for the future. Carla enjoys writing both fiction, nonfiction, as well as mentoring fellow writers. How are you today, Carla?
I'm great. I'm great. How are
So
you?
I always, great. I always like to start off asking, when did you first realize you were a writer?
Interesting question. I've always been a writer. I'm an attorney by training. So obviously you write for that profession. But my father was a professional writer. He had, I think, 17 books published at the time of his death. So I basically grew up with a writer and watched from the sidelines, doing a lot of alpha reading and beta reading of his books, and always had a passion for it.
And what type of books did your father write?
He wrote historical novels about World War II.
Oh, wow. So Soul of a Swimmer is very different from what I read. What inspired this book?
Oh, okay. So, um, well, everybody knows, I think, about the tragedy that we had in Parkland in 2018, which was a school shooting. I was training for a marathon, I believe marathon swim, and found out about it. And lo and behold, a couple months later, the swimmers in our community came together to honor Nick in a ceremony up in a park near here, and I met his parents. So then I started to find out about his story, and I thought, this kid was like such an amazing kid. He was way more than just a pool and a boy. He was an amazing person. So I wrote an application for him to be admitted into the Swimming Hall of Fame posthumously. And then that didn't happen. Then COVID happened. But then I came back to his parents and said, there's so much more about your son than swimming that I really want to write a book about him. So I asked them if I could and if they would support it. And that's how I wrote the book. I got lists of people to interview and interviewed a lot of people and put it together from there.
And so you talked a little bit about it, but could you walk us through your writing process of how you actually wrote the book? You did some interviews, you said, and
Mhm. The writing process was done through research and interviews, much like any writer. But I needed to research Nick's swimming record, for lack of a better word, his progression through the sport. And I got a really good grasp of where he was going because, as you know, the book alludes to and says very specifically that he was training for the Olympics in 2020. So I did a lot of research, and then I had people that I started to interview in a particular order. I was dealing with a lot of grief at that time. Everybody was immersed and still is immersed in grief. So I had to be really sensitive and mindful. And a lot of the people subjects I interviewed were his friends who were young adults, but not much past 18 or 19. So I went through the process of picking people to interview, picking those that were ready to talk, picking those that needed to talk, which there was a tremendous number of swimmers and coaches and people that just needed to talk about him. And then, of course, the family. Mitch and Annika, his mom and dad, we met and met and met and met like frequently going through this project.
and so after you did all the interviews, you got all this material, you did the research, you found out his swimming history. What was your process as a writer to get this all down on the page?
Um, I used some metaphors to open each chapter which are kind of germane to swimmers. So, for example, I think there's 4 chapters. One is like butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, and freestyle. Nick was a freestyler, by the way. So I used metaphors, and then I kind of built upon those metaphors. There was a certain time when we talked about mullet, which are schools of fish, which was sort of a metaphor for how swimmers come together and are very closely bound together by the water. So I opened that chapter with that metaphor, and then I talked about Nick's circle of 4, which were his 4 best friends growing up, and how they all swam together and took care of each other, and how they just coexisted together with the water. So I used a lot of metaphors that were germane to swimming.
Great. And as a swimmer yourself, you swim every day still, or a few times a
Well,
week, or
I swim like 4 or 5 times a week.
4 or 5 times? Yeah, which
Yeah,
is a
I
ton.
swim on a team still. I still compete. I haven't competed for a couple of years due to other reasons, but I intend to compete again this year. And yeah, I swim a lot with a team of about 300 adults.
Wow. And in the swimming, are you focused on the moment, or are you writing as you swim too sometimes?
Well, when I was writing this book, I was definitely writing as I swam, because I was trying to capture in words what the eyes see in the water. I don't know if that makes sense, but just like the blues and the colors and the lights and I coined a term in the book called the language of swimming, which is when you turn side by side with someone in the water. It's just beautiful. Like you have a teammate next to you, and you turn side by side. And I definitely came up with that during a workout when I was swimming next to one of my friends. It's a really peaceful, quiet, sort of contemplative sport. And you get a lot of time to meditate, which I know Nick did. Nick was very, he was an old soul. So he looked inward a lot. He had a lot of emotions and feelings and abilities to understand other people and listen to them and empathize with their situation. So I know that he did that himself. He developed that ability when he was swimming.
And then someone read the book and decided they wanted to make a theatrical stage production of this.
Yeah. So what happened was I was at South Florida Writers Association meeting, and one of the members is also a reporter, and she asked me if she could give my book to Philip Church, who is the FAU professor who took it and made it into a play. And I was I'm still sort of shocked that he did that. So he took it and he wrote it into a play, and then produced it into a play. And we're thinking that it's gonna probably go other places, because it's we try not, there's no politics in this book, there's no discussion about how his life ended. It's about every day before his life ended, about, from his virtually from his birth until that moment in the classroom. And so we intend to take it other places just for its young adult appeal.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
And where did it play? It was playing
It was at the
where was it performed?
Westchester Arts and Cultural Center, and then it was at the Hollywood Arts and Cultural Center. And
Oh,
it
great.
closed about a week ago, but
Oh,
um, but we hope
just missed
it's
it.
gonna go other places. We have some plans. Of course, we need to financially be able to do it. It was all done by not-for-profit work, so he has a not-for-profit, and then my book also is not-for-profit. I've not gained financially from this at all. I turn everything over to Nick's charity.
Oh, fantastic.
I
And
know.
what's the name of his charity? What's the
It's
name of
called
Nick's?
Swim for Nick, and
Okay,
it's a charity that provides scholarships to kids going to college who are swimmers.
that's
They
great.
don't necessarily have to compete in college, but it's designed for kids that don't normally get the big scholarship money. Like swimming doesn't get like the huge scholarships that other sports do, and it really helps some of the kids get to college, basically.
That's fantastic. And with the play, were there big differences? Was there anything that surprised you about the play, or that really moved you
It
as
was
the writer?
very creative. I'm not, it's way out of my bandwidth to write a play and produce one, but Philip did such a great job, and I someday maybe I can show it to you. I have it on tape.
Oh,
Um,
great.
he was so creative, and he was really spot on with the key elements of the story. For example, Nick was a very empathetic person, and there's a story in there about him helping another swimmer through a really difficult time. Um, and it was just so, it was almost exactly what I wrote in the book. And I was like, wow, that was like
Mm.
amazing. And there was also a dark time in Nick's life when he fell out of swimming and hung out with some people that weren't so good for him. And that was portrayed really tactfully and accurately. And he made his way back to swimming. So the swimmers came and kind of got him and brought him back to the pool. And it was so sweet. It was very sweet in many ways, you know.
Great. And are you working on anything else now that this book
I
has been out
am.
there in the world? Okay, do you
I
mind
am. I have a
sharing?
really exciting project. My parents were a little bit older when they had us, and I'm Sicilian. So my father had departed from his World War II genre and moved on to his own family. So unfortunately, he passed away before he finished that book. And it's a story about his family immigrating from Sicily to Tampa,
Oh,
where
wow.
they became cigar rollers in the early 1900s. And so I'm making it, I've taken it and I'm going to finish it for my dad. I promised my dad I'm going to finish it. Um, and I made it into a historical novel because there's not enough information to make it factual.
Hmm.
I'm making it as factual as I can, but there's a lot of holes that have to be filled in with fiction. And don't think I'm morbid, but it involves my father's uncle who was lynched in 1910 in
Oh,
Tampa.
geez. Wow. So
And it
there's a
still
lot of
is an
history.
unsolved crime, believe it or not.
Wow.
So my dad was always just loved this uncle. I don't think he even knew him, or if he knew him, he was small when he met him. And just my father always felt intrigued by the story and felt like he owed it to the family to write the story of coming to Tampa.
Yeah. So your family came to Florida, then moved to California, and then you
Yes,
moved
so
back to Florida.
yes, exactly. My father's father, who would have been the brother of Angelo, who died, they all, well, yeah, they moved other places because they had a family business, and if you know what I mean, a family business. And so he moved to
Hmm.
California and worked in the racehorse business.
No euphemism or anything. Okay.
Yeah, he worked in the racehorse
Yeah.
business. Others moved, you know, there were large families. There was not enough space in the houses and not enough space in the families at that time to keep them all in Tampa. At that time too, they were also doing arranged marriages. So my grandparents were arranged in marriage,
Hmm.
moved to Los Angeles and had their family there. And it
Wow.
wasn't uncommon then because, you know, when large families immigrate, families of 12, 13, 14 people immigrate, they tend to scatter over time. So we have family all over the United States and we're pretty connected. We're very connected
Great.
still. Yeah.
Great. I mean, you've been here. You're a South Florida veteran now, right? You said you've been. I think in your bio you've been here 30 years now, or
Yeah.
close to it. How has our region? I think you said you're in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how's South Florida influenced you as a writer?
Oh, well, I have a book for after this book.
Okay.
And it's a
Okay.
South Florida book.
Okay. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
so I have a book for after the book, and it doesn't involve swimming and it doesn't involve someone that passes away. It's actually a really happy what would you call it, ensemble book that I've already kind of started a little bit outlining. And but I got to finish this book that I'm doing about Angelo right now because I feel behind, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean. I really,
Sure.
really have
Sure.
to finish that. So South Florida has become our home. We still return to California a couple months a year. We go out. We have my family's out in California, so um, I love it here because of swimming, because of the abilities to go to a pool, to beautiful swimming Hall of Fame pool, which is, world class. And then we have the beautiful oceans. It's just, it's great for our lifestyle here, and we love it here. California, uh, can be a difficult place to live. The weather isn't so kind to California. And I was just reading an article, parts of my hometown are sliding right now. So,
Oh
um,
no.
we like it. We love it here.
Great, great. And people can buy Soul of a Swimmer. It's on Amazon. And where can people get it?
Amazon, um, it's also in some Barnes and Noble stores, has carried it off and on. That's about all I know. Yeah, I would say Amazon's the best place. I'm getting ready to probably do an audiobook of it.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, get
Are you
that
are you
done.
going to read it? Or are you going to get an actor? How
I
does that work?
actually, so if you read the book, you know that Nick's mom actually has a lot of influence in the story. I'm gonna try to get her to read parts that involve her,
Oh
which I
wow.
thought would be really fun. She's Swedish, so she has like a very sweet accent. And when we did the play, she went and taught all the actors how to use the inflection and accent, the Swedish accent. So, and then I'll probably just have professionals do it.
Great. Okay, well, anything else you want to talk about? I didn't give you a chance to
Um,
talk about yet.
no, I'm really thankful to the South Florida Writers Association, though. I have to say that they've really helped me maintain my focus on my craft. I do a lot of blogging in addition to writing books because I feel that one should practice and then receive feedback, so I do a lot of blogging unrelated to any of the books I've written or things like
And can
that.
people read your blog anywhere? Is there a
Yeah,
website or
it's on Medium. A lot of people, I have a
some?
lot of followers actually on Medium. So I'm really thankful to South Florida Writers because I always come away with an idea or two or three, and I come away with like an aha moment every time I go to a meeting. And I just think there's not enough that one can know about writing.
Hmm.
And I'm curious all the time about it. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful for the community of writing in South Florida as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Carla.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of
I'll talk to you
course.
soon.